Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking something that's, well, profoundly unsettling but absolutely fascinating. We're looking at how a maximum security prison systematically dismantles your very identity. As you'll see, it's not just about steel bars and concrete walls. Oh no, it's a meticulously designed architectural and psychological process that fundamentally alters exactly who you are. So let's jump right in. Okay, picture this. You're entering a locked facility. And the first thing you experience is that visceral, echoing reality. Steel doors slam shut behind you. And they don't just echo once, right? That sound bounces through concrete corridors until it literally settles somewhere deep inside your chest. The vibration actually hangs in the air longer than the noise itself. You instinctively turn around toward the exit, but it's already gone. There's no dramatic announcement, no final warning, just another locked door separating one controlled space from the next. And right away, the environment enforces its will on you. The temperature in there hovers right around 20 degrees Celsius all year round. Now, you might be wondering, why that exact number? Well, what's absolutely fascinating is that it's not for your comfort. Sure, it's comfortable enough to prevent complaints, but it's cold enough to constantly remind you that your comfort was never, ever part of the design. It is strictly, entirely about institutional control. Then, the intake process hits you, and it hits fast. It's incredibly clinical. Your clothing, it disappears into a plastic container. Fingerprints are scanned, photographs are taken from multiple angles. Every single scar, tattoo, and distinguishing mark is documented with absolute robotic precision. Questions are asked, answers are recorded, and none of it feels personal because, well, it isn't. Next up is a medical screening, and it follows that exact same rapid-fire nature. They check your blood pressure. They record your weight. Literally, every physical metric is being carefully, meticulously measured and documented. They check your vision. They evaluate your mental health. But here's the absolutely crucial point to take away from all this. Not a single one of these precise medical tests asks who you are as a person. They're only asking whether you fit neatly inside their established institutional procedures. And that brings us to what an arrival truly means in this system. You are simply another identification number, attached to a file that's several centimeters thick, processed by a machine that has seen thousands just like you before. You're no longer known by your first name. No way. From this moment on, officers are going to look at your paperwork way before they ever bother to look at your face. Now, this number brilliantly illustrates the sheer physical contraction of your life. 6 square meters. To put that into perspective for a second, that is significantly smaller than a standard parking space. And that tiny box becomes the absolute center of your world. A steel bed, a steel toilet, a steel sink, and one narrow window designed to let light in without giving you any meaningful view of the outside. Your whole world is now confined to this incredibly tight space, and every single minute belongs to the institutional routine. But if you're going to survive this space, you have to learn an invisible curriculum. These are the unwritten rules, the lessons nobody hands you a manual for. Never interrupt another inmate's routine. Never ask unnecessary questions. Never promise what you can't deliver, and whatever you do, never display panic. In this environment, respect isn't usually earned by being the biggest or strongest guy in the room. It's earned through consistency. Your reputation functions exactly like currency. It's incredibly easy to lose and almost impossible to rebuild. So, this invisible curriculum dictates how you navigate everyday prison life. You see, there's a massive gap between the official rules, what should happen according to policy, and the unofficial rules, which is what actually happens in reality. Survival depends so heavily on intense observation. Experienced inmates, they know exactly which officer follows the actual policy, which ones value punctuality over attitude, and which requests will simply disappear into a filing cabinet forever. You learn when to speak up, and honestly, more importantly, you learn when silence carries far greater value. As months slowly turn into years, time completely distorts. Outside these walls, we measure our years through holidays and birthdays, right? But inside, the timeline totally shifts. Years are measured entirely through institutional movements. We're talking transfers, parole hearings, new arrivals, and empty cells. Faces change, staff retire, new officers replace the experienced ones, but the institution itself, it barely notices. In governing this totally distorted timeline is a suffocating bureaucracy. Everything requires a form. You need forms to request medical appointments, educational programs, legal materials. Heck, you probably need a form just to request another form. One missing signature can delay your progress for weeks. Nothing moves quickly here, and absolutely everything leaves a paper trail. Personal choice is just completely replaced by endless administration. The very concept of freedom becomes difficult to even imagine because pure, rigid structure has replaced choice. But then, out of nowhere, that rigid routine can completely shatter. Say a fight breaks out on the recreation yard. One fight becomes three. Three become 10. Alarms activate instantly. Orders echo across the yard. The entire facility plunges into an emergency lockdown. Hours stretch into days, with no movement, no phones, no visits, and absolutely no explanations. It's just this tense, informationless void where rumors completely replace reality. During all this chaos, you might face an impossible paradox of choice. The source material outlines a scenario where an officer gets trapped behind a damaged security gate while the violence is spreading. So what do? Do you help them? I mean, helping could save a life, for sure, but it permanently risks your standing and your safety with every other inmate around you. On the flip side, walking away protects your standing, but it profoundly challenges your own morals. You hesitate. Because in here, the system changes the meaning of every single decision you make. There are rarely any good options, only consequences with different timelines. Long after that lockdown ends, that moment stays with you. It forces you to ask a really heavy, lingering question. Who were you before these walls? And who are you now? Because those answers no longer match. The true punishment of this architecture isn't just the physical confinement. Not at all. It is the fundamental alteration of your moral framework. Eventually, your release date actually approaches. The steel doors finally open in the opposite direction, and you step outside into a world that continued perfectly well without you. People are just walking around without permission, stores are staying open late. It's jarring. The physical cage is gone, sure, but the psychological one, that remains. You'll find yourself carrying all these residual habits. You instinctively wake before dawn. You notice every single locked door. You measure rooms by their exits. Crowds make you uncomfortable, and silence makes you deeply suspicious. Being free requires practice, because parts of that routine are still hardwired inside you. Meanwhile, back at the facility, the system never pauses. The very next month, another transport vehicle rolls up. Another steel door opens. Another identification number is assigned. The lights just keep humming above those concrete floors. The institution doesn't celebrate your arrival, and it certainly does not mourn your departure. It simply replaces one person with another in a state of complete, unwavering indifference. Which brings us to this truly haunting reality. The longest sentence was actually never measured by the calendar. It was measured by the slow, methodical transformation of your identity. As the source material so powerfully puts it, long after the gates finally opened, part of the prison continued walking beside you. It leaves us with this incredible, provocative thought to ponder. When an institution is built from the ground up to completely break down exactly who you are, how much of that original person ever truly walks out? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.